Good day to everyone out there. Welcome to the channel. This is the first 2024 Senate election prediction on the channel, and it's the first Senate prediction since the 2022 midterms. So I think this is going to be a lot of fun. As you can see, I have already filled out the safe states. We're going to quickly fill in the likely states, and then we'll talk about the competitive races. Starting off, we have Maine. That one's going to go likely Democrat. Republicans don't really have a chance. Independent King is running there. He caucuses with the Dems. He will ultimately win. We have Maryland. That one could have been an interesting race. Had Larry Hogan not been a complete sellout loser who went all on board with the left-wing social progressive policy, that's really going to help you win. Totally. That's going to get Republicans to vote for you, right? Oh, wait. No, it's not. So yeah, he's done on arrival. Next up, we have Virginia. I would have loved if we could win this state. Trump's made it a little bit closer. Hung Cao is a fantastic candidate. He's great on policy. He should have won in 2022. However, he didn't. And at the same point, I just really don't see him winning the Virginia Senate race. So, unfortunately, that will likely go to the Democrats and Tim Kaine. Then we have Florida with Rick Scott. He will easily win that. Florida is a safe Republican state. Again, as I've already mentioned, Joe Biden and his campaign have said that the state is no longer in play. And then lastly, we have the state of Texas right here. That will be Senator Ted Cruz. He just barely eked out the win in a blue wave year in 2018 against Beto O'Rourke. This year, he's probably going to win by 5+ points. Most of the polling shows that he's around that margin. Trump's going to win the state by a similar to 2016 margin. So realistically, he likely wins that state by about 5+ points. And those are all of the likely states. With all of the likely states and all of the safe states filled out, as you can see, Republicans have already hit the 50 senator mark. That's enough to hold the Senate, assuming Trump wins the election, which I have made pretty clear that I think he's going to win, and I really don't see any path for Joe Biden and his fumbling cheap fakes to make it to the White House again. Ultimately, what this comes down to is how safe of a majority are we going to get for the GOP here? That's what it comes down to. And it also comes down to, can we potentially outvote some of the rhinos that might be within the Senate? So we'll start going. We'll go west to east. Starting out, we have the state of Nevada. So Nevada is a state that has shifted fairly quickly to the right. It's shifted right into Trump's column. He's probably going to win the state. Now, obviously, get out and vote. I cannot say this enough. Do not get complacent, because complacency is what loses elections, and we need to win not just the presidency, but we need to win the Senate and the House. So vote red down ballot if you want first of all, a majority, but second of all, a rhino-proof majority in the Senate. Now, Nevada, again, like I said, is a state that's been shifting to the right. In 2018, during a blue wave year, Rosen won by 5 points exactly in the state. And again, the state has been shifting to the right. We haven't got a whole lot of polling out of the state. Rosen has been leading in the most recent poll by 5. There was on June 19th, a poll out of the Hill Emerson that had Rosen up 12. I would say that's an outlier, and I really would just toss it. I don't see any point in really counting it. I'm not saying it's invalid, but it's not really worth looking into or putting much stock in. We also have, if you go back to May, we have a New York Times Siena poll with Brown versus Rosen that's tied. So it's kind of conflicting. There's, again, not a whole lot of data. I would say based on trends that I think Republicans can win the state. Polling doesn't really show it right now, but I ultimately think Nevada will go. It's going to be close. It could go either way, but I think we'll be able to pull it off in a tilt margin. It's a very, very close race, and it's very possible if we don't get out and vote red down ballot, the race could be lost. Next up is Arizona, a very interesting state here. Just like Nevada, it's another state where Republicans seem to be pretty well underperforming in the Senate polling compared to Trump's polling, because both of these states, Trump's probably going to win, and he is polling by 3 to 5+ points. I'm pretty sure in Arizona, yeah, Trump's up 5.6 points, which is quite a big margin. But then you see the polling for the state for Kari Lake versus Gallego, and Gallego's up 1, up 4, up 3, up 3. So there's something going on. I know Kari Lake is maybe not as popular for some people, but at the same time, I just don't see how so many Republicans, or at least voters, can just go, you know what, I'm going to vote for Trump, but not Kari Lake, who is basically just female Trump in Arizona. I don't know. It's very confusing to me. Ultimately, again, this is partially a result of not voting red down ballot. So we need to make sure people are voting red down ballot. But at the same time, I think Lake will still pull it off. I know that might be controversial. I could very well be wrong, and trust me, I've been wrong about some things. If you go back and watch some of my midterm predictions, they definitely didn't pan out how I had hoped, and I might have been a little optimistic. But I still think Lake can pull it off, and I really hope she does. Following Arizona, we have the state of Montana. This one, incumbent Jon Tester versus Tim Sheehy. Sheehy is a pretty good candidate. Obviously, he's better than Tester, who's, again, another fake moderate. There's a lot of those fake moderate Democrats who somehow win in these Republican states. If we look at the 2018, again, blue wave year, Tester wins it by about a little less than 4 points. So it was a close race. It was a very close race. It was within 20,000 votes. It was less than 20,000 votes. Polling in the state has shown pretty much, at least recently, in June, we haven't had a whole lot of polling other than June. If you go before June, you have March. So in June, we have a couple polls that show that it's even, and one poll that shows that Sheehy is leading. I'm going to be giving it to Sheehy. I think he wins it by a lean margin, just under 5 points, somewhere in that range. Following Montana, we have the last 4 states in the Senate prediction. We have Wisconsin, Michigan, Ohio, and Pennsylvania. We'll quickly go through the rest of them. Wisconsin is a state that Trump is leading in the polls. He's been leading just ever so slightly, but he is leading. The state's always been very difficult to poll. A lot of the people are hard to reach there, and it's hard to poll some of the parts of the state as a whole. It's notorious for Wisconsin polls to be inaccurate. At the end of the day, I think, I don't know. I don't think Hovde is going to win. I would love if he did, but as of now, based on all of the polling data I have seen, I really don't think I can just go ahead and say, yes, we're going to win this one. I'm pretty sure Baldwin's going to win it. It'll be somewhere in a lean margin. How many times I have to click that? But it'll be somewhere in a lean margin. I'd say anywhere from 3 to just under 5 points. It could go to potentially more than that if Republicans really underperform in the state, but I just don't see it happening. And I just don't see any GOP candidates underperforming Trump by such insane margins. It just seems so unlikely to me. Now we have the state of Michigan, again, another state that Trump leads. The last 3 states here, you're going to find Trump is leading in all of them in the polling, even if it's only by 0.5 in Michigan, for example. He is leading. So again, to say that Trump will potentially lose a bunch of these states, I find it highly unlikely. People aren't going to go ahead and say, oh, you know, Trump, he's my guy, the person that people have brutally assaulted for the last 8-9 years. They're not going to all of a sudden go vote for him and then be like, but no, I couldn't dare vote for this other Republican. They're awful. But Trump's okay. That just doesn't happen. Yeah, there's maybe a few people here and there. Maybe they're like ancestral Dems or just older blue-collar Democrats who are kind of like, you know what, Trump kind of stands for me more. I don't know about the rest of the party, but I'll vote for Trump. There's going to be some of those, especially in the Midwest. But I don't see it being that many. And now, again, Trump's only leading by 0.5 in Michigan. So that is something to consider with the state. Slotkin has been leading in pretty much all of the polls we've seen since April. There's only been 4. She's led by 2, 4, 3, and 4 in all of them, respectively. So I would say that the race could get closer, and I think we'll see as we get closer to the election that the margin could potentially tighten. There's a lot of undecided still available. The most that Slotkin's got as well is 43%. So there is, again, a lot of undecided voters. And I just don't see them splitting in an absurd margin for Slotkin. I think they might split more for Rogers in this case, because Republicans seem to be able to draw in a lot of those independent, undecided voters right now. I think they're going to continue to do that as we get closer to the election. And that's kind of clear in what we saw from the debate the other night. The debate between Biden and Trump really shows you what's going on with Biden, and that's something that has to be considered, even in down ballot races where Biden isn't running. So at this point, it's hard to say. I would say ever so slightly it's going to be in a tilt column for the Democrats right now. I don't see enough to say for sure that a Republican's winning it. Now, I do think that they very well can, and I hope they get it a lot closer, which they probably will. But as of now, I can't say that. Now, I left Ohio as another state that's up for grabs because based on the very minimal polling we've seen, it is technically a state that is up for grabs, but it really isn't. Ohio is just like Florida and Iowa. It is a state that has basically become almost solid Republican. It's voted 8+ points for Trump for the last 2 cycles. It's voted for Republican candidates like DeWine in a 20-point margin, and Vance won as well by, I think it was around 7 points. So I really don't see the Democrats being able to pull this out. I don't think it will happen. I know that there's the incumbent with Sherrod Brown. He is an incumbent and that helps, and he kind of plays that moderate, but he really isn't. He's the biggest fake moderate ever, just like so many of these Democrats who run in these Republican states. I just wish people would pay a little more attention and see through their complete lies, because they're not who they are. They're all awful people who still support the same status quo garbage that the left-wing Democrats have been pushing, especially under Biden as of late. So at the end of the day, I don't think this will be any surprise to anyone. Ohio, I'd say, goes in almost likely. For now, I'll keep it in a lean margin. Moreno is a good candidate, and I do think he wins it. And to top that off, we have the state of Pennsylvania, a very hotly contested state right now, probably the most important one at the end of the day when it comes to the federal election. But in the Senate race, we have Casey versus McCormick. I don't see enough data to really say that we're going to win this race. I don't think McCormick's going to win it as of now. Again, this is just like Wisconsin and Michigan. We're still 4 months out. We have plenty of time to see change in the state. But as of now, I'd say it'll go in a lean, maybe tilt margin. Based on polling data, I just can't say that it's going to be a Republican win yet, but it very well could be. And that leaves us off, finally, with 46 Democrat and 54 Republican. So that is a pretty good margin for us. I'm very happy with a 54 Senate majority. That's probably higher than a lot of people are going to predict, and a lot of people will attack me for that. And I don't care. I think it's what will happen. I think this is currently the most realistic outcome. Arizona may be the most debatable on here. A lot of people don't think Lake will win it, and I don't blame them. There is definitely some concern there. But at the end of the day, I do think we're going to be winning it by that margin. Anyways, any feedback is appreciated, so let me know in the comments what you think. What do you think is going to happen? What do you think about the prediction? And I would just also say, if you enjoyed the video, go ahead and check out another one of my videos here that's showing up on screen.